It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Pamela Hill. Hi, Pamela. How are you?
I'm great, Douglas. How are you today?
Doing fine, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I really appreciate all your kind support. It's wonderful.
So you are the wife of William Joseph Hill, who's been on the show, I guess, twice now. I always have a good time with him, and he suggested that we have you on and talk about your book. You've got a book out called The Next Contestant Is, and I got to admit I was overwhelmed by the statistic on your bio that says you had been on over 25 game shows. I mean, I didn't even know there were 25 game shows.
Yeah, yes, I have, and that is a lot. Sometimes I'm like, really? Individually, I've been over 15, and then collectively with William, I've been over 25. But yes, over 25 I was on, and it's hard to believe. And that's when the book started to come to me. Like it seemed like an unusual thing that happened in my life. Yeah.
Well, you were like a serial game show contestant. Were you a contestant, or were you just in the audience?
No, I was a contestant. My father growing up would say to me, I'm from Cincinnati, Douglas, and he would say, know enough to get on a game show someday. It was just one of these throwaway lines. And as I grew up, I think it stayed with me. Being a performer, the game show world seemed like it was a short reach away. And once I started on my journey there, it just started to happen. And I guess I started to get better on how to be a contestant and the ins and outs and behind the scenes of it. So, yes, I lived to tell the tale, and I thought a handful of years ago, Douglas, that maybe there's a book there. And that's when finally this year, with my husband's help, who's done this journey before, I put my book out, The Next Contestant Is, and wanted to tell the tale and thread it with details of my life and how I took those steps to get to be a contestant on all those game shows.
I had somebody on this show who wrote a book, I think specifically about Jeopardy, though. And I wish I had that written down. I just thought of it now as you said it. So I don't remember his name and I don't remember the book, but I do remember the interview that he was talking about, that it was specifically for Jeopardy. But I will get back to you on that one.
Cool.
Which one was your first one then that you got on?
No, thank you. That's a great question. My first game show entree, you would say, into the game show world was The Wheel of Fortune. And this was a daytime version. And This is actually starts one of my chapters in the book. Yes. And, I was on that on the daytime and actually had to go. I got to call up when you could call up and go to audition and get through take a test, get through the test, then speak about myself. They eliminated people, kind of like American Idol. And then they got down to 4 of us, and I'm like, oh my God. So, and then I was on the show. And so that was my beginnings of my Wheel of Fortune life. And it was a game show that my mom and dad were very fond of back home. So they were really excited about that.
So what year was that?
That was in the early 90s.
Okay, and Pat Sajak was the host?
Actually, the daytime, Pat Sajak was still at nighttime, Douglas. The daytime host was Bob Goen, but Vanna White was still turning the vowels and the consonants. So.
Oh, okay, so Vanna was there, but all right. I don't remember the daytime show particularly. Okay, so what did you win? Did you win something?
Well, I got consolation prizes. So it was so exciting to be on the show. And the one thing that always stays with me, and I talk about it in my story, one of the things that I received along with a microwave coffee brewer and a popcorn popper was accent salt coupons. And for some reason, all these years later, I held on to one. So one of the pictures in the book, it kind of marks that journey with an accent salt coupon. And I thought that was pretty kitschy. So and what else happened, and again, it's kind of a book, I don't want too many spoilers. when it was airing in my hometown of Cincinnati, there was a presidential news report coming on. So nobody saw exactly what happened at the end. So sometimes I go, wink, wink, I might have won bigger. So the East Coast might be surprised, but the West Coast probably caught it. So,
are you still doing this?
I'm still open to game shows and game show auditions. I love being a contestant. I'm an actress, and the game show world was a nice way to supplement my life. And I'm still open to game shows, and it was been really cool to be able to be on some with my husband. So we've been able to have the trajectory of being on shows as a couple, which has been a lot of fun with William.
Well, when I was growing up, there were a ton of game shows. I mean, this was back in the 70s, and there doesn't seem to be as many now as there was.
You know, it's funny. You would think, and I agree with you, there were so many, especially on TV, so much, and that again is my book, the visuals in my mind of, Monty Hall and Bob Barker, may rest in peace as well. But actually today there is a lot, and what they're doing too, Douglas, they're actually bringing back a lot of shows that have been on and refurbishing them, if that's the word, and putting them on again. So that's a really interesting thing. Some shows, some media, they don't have as much of anymore in Hollywood, but the game show world, interestingly enough, is still thriving. It's a one area people, I think, respond to because it's kind of Americana. So what's been exciting with the book, people have enjoyed the journey because I think, like yourself, it brings back a lot of memories and everybody relates to it differently. And I really try to keep that thread in my book of how I first felt about it and how it's affected my life as well.
Well, the ones that I can remember, you mentioned Bob Barker, who just recently passed. The Price is Right. I watched that as a kid. Let's Make a Deal with Monty Hall.
Sure.
Those were kind of my favorites. I remember Password, and I loved watching Lucille Ball on Password because she was so good. And Betty White, I think, was another regular. Alan Ludden, her husband, hosted it for years and years. And I had Todd Newton on the show, I don't know, many years ago, and he hosted a show called Whammy, I think.
Yeah, I was actually, that's so funny. He's actually in my book. I was actually on an episode of that. And Todd was great to work with. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, he was on the show, God, it must be 6-7 years ago now. But I remember we talked a bit about that. And we talked about the Gong Show. Were you on that one?
You know what, Douglas, I probably could be and do a really bad act if needed to be, but I was not on the Gong Show. It's not in any chapters as of yet.
That was a crazy show. I mean, and you know what? I don't think you could get away with doing a show like that now. I think we're a little too politically correct, but that show was crazy. That was the weirdest show I've ever seen.
Yeah, fun but weird. But I do remember that, and the big gong being gongs. It definitely had a lot of elements to that program.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what they're looking for, because I mean the process has to be pretty arduous, right? How many times do you have to go back, and what are they looking for in a contestant? Is there any secret?
Yeah, and it's funny, I even have like a checklist in the book, but one thing they really want, which is relatable, I'm saying this, I'm not phoning it in, no pun intended, is that they really just want to see, first of all, you want to have great energy. You want to, because obviously you're going to be on the show, and people, hopefully viewers are going to watch, and there's something you might be familiar with called TVQ. They want someone they can root for and relate to. So that's really important, just who you are. Also, as you walk through the door, obviously, this goes without saying, being kind and cool with all the whole process from beginning to end is obviously a start. But also being, technically speaking, but it's very important, being familiar with the rules of the game. If it's a new game, really listening, finding out online how the game is played, maybe watching some YouTube videos now that we have YouTube, or also going back and, watching how the game used to be played, but really listening, paying attention. Because as I said in the book, and I emphasize this, aside from who you are and what you bring to the table, literally as a game show contestant, they do watch everything. And I just think being a good sport. These are things, honestly, the things you hopefully bring to the table in all parts of your life. But as a game show contestant, especially since it's representing them and their show, and if it is being televised, and most of them are, it's really got to be apparent that they want to watch you, and that you know what you're doing, and So those are really important details. Really listening and just being yourself and having great energy is really important.
Did you ever see the movie Quiz Show?
I did. That was fascinating.
I thought it was really fascinating because back then, I mean, they were that was pretty brutal. Where they pick the guy, oh, he's more handsome, let's pick him, and then they would rig the game to make sure that the other guy lost, the one they didn't want. Yeah, no.
And I think there was other things involved with that, and that's why the story itself is so fascinating. But I think, just aside from, that story and why it happened, and hopefully those things don't happen as much because of those specific reasons, I just think the likability factor can just be being you. I think another thing important, Douglas, is when they talk to the casting, along with hopefully you taking, if there's a test or if they give you something to do and following instructions, is having other things in your life that you can speak about, your hobbies, just being genuine, because they really want, I think, someone not just to play the game, but they want, a full fleshed out, it sounds so human. And that's why a lot of times, and probably can relate to this over the years, you remember certain contestants that stand out, that just seem like, oh, I'm rooting for them. And William, I should say, we still feel the same when we watch game shows. It's exciting. You just kind of root for that person.
So we mentioned Bob Barker and The Price is Right. Were you on that one?
It sounds like the Gong Show now. No, I wasn't. but I did stand in line around 4:45 in the morning when guests, I think my parents, the book is dedicated to, my dad is passed, but may he rest in peace, my mom's still here. We did stand in line early, and I did stand in line with a couple friends in town. But it was a fun day, and even went once with my nephew. But no, I was not on. But I was on in the audience. If you did a screen capture, you saw me hollering and being enthusiastic. So
okay, so you were in the audience, because I know that show, they just picked you right out of the audience. And
right.
Did they pre-screen like the people that they're going to call, or was it just pick your name out of a hat kind of thing?
I think yes, a little bit of both. And again, I don't know 110% how they follow every rule, because I'm not on that side of it. But I know when I did go there, the times that I went, they do talk to you. Hi, what's your name? Hi, I'm Pamela. Blah, blah. And what do you do? So they have at least a moment with you. So I don't know completely. I think that has a part and parcel to them deciding who they want, but it could be, other factors as well. But I did get to say hi. So
okay,
and it depends. Yeah.
Well, okay. So what's your biggest win?
My biggest win, and this is so my biggest win on my own would have been on Celebrity Stars, and I won, and boy, did I scream. I'm a very energetic person. I won $5,000, and I was thrilled. It was a lot about pop culture and entertainment, and it was the bonus round, and I was good to go, and it was very exciting. So that was a standalone Pam win. But our biggest win with the William hubby, who you've talked to before, was one show that we always tried to get on. It was so hard, but we did it, was the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Douglas. Oh, my God. That's its own chapter in the book, but we won. Give away spoilers, but they can read the story. We won, and I should say he, but I was a help in a few different factors with that. I was his plus one and other things, but that was $50,000.
Wow.
Oh my God. Tears flowed and screamed. It was a day. It was a day.
So do they take the taxes out of that right away when after the show is over?
I adore you. You're so funny. Let's see. I can say one thing. This is really funny. We had got back, and just to tell you, because I think you'll appreciate this, it was after the holidays, Christmas. We got home from, we were out of town, and the day after Christmas, we go to the mailbox, we're like, oh my God, the check's here. It took within a couple months to come, but we were like little kids and took it in, and then went when the banks opened to deposit it. So the answer to that equation is not at first, but yes, because that's why we're still on the phone here. You do have taxes on it. I don't remember exactly how much, but William, one of his side jobs was with in the monetary world, so he's able to. I trusted him, so we're okay in kosher. So yeah.
Oh, they mail you the check, so you don't even get the money at the time that you're there.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So coming home right after Christmas and seeing like something's in the mailbox, and like, oh my God, you're just like holding it like it's a prize. Literally was a prized possession. And then the next day we drove carefully to the bank. It was, it was very exciting. Yeah, it was very exciting. And William was very smart. William was the main contestant. I was his plus one, but I helped him. And it's in the story with the final question. It was really exciting, but oh my God, it was such a amazing experience, Douglas.
Well, so what about prizes? So when people like win a car or they win, furniture or something like that, do you get to take it home right away, or do they, send it to you 2 months later?
Some of the prizes are there, but I believe, and I did not win a car, even though in my parents' life, my father had won a car, but that's for another book. I believe the smaller prizes I had taken home, but I think the bigger prizes, such as a car or major thing, they probably, as far as what I've known or know, they have to ship, or you go to the dealership and do that. And I think with maybe certain prizes, that's a great question, because I think people have asked me that too. But from what I know of with bigger prizes, you have to pay maybe taxes on it before you take it. Again, Douglas, I have won prizes on the show, but a lot of my bigger wins and maybe the thread of my wins have been monetary. So, but I still had to wait to be paid, unless it was like a bonus little fun bill or something. But I think everything I had to wait on.
Well, the one thing I always loved about the old Let's Make a Deal with Monty Hall is that he always carried around $1,000 bills in his pocket. That was great. And when, he would pull one of those out, and they'd always do a close-up of it. I don't think they're around anymore. But those were impressive, and especially back then, because back then $1,000 was worth a lot more than it is now.
Absolutely. And it's so funny you said that, because that kind of was the start of even writing this, the imagery that I had, because that was, again, another show my parents and I watched. But yes, it just stayed with you. You were just, oh my God. Or Jack Barry pulling, I don't know if remember The Joker's Wild?
Sure.
Yeah, it's just those images. And I grew up around carnivals and games and skee ball, so I kind of already had that, I think, in my genetic makeup with the things that I did for fun and festivals in Cincinnati. But the game shows that you mentioned and that we probably both watched were just so exciting that it just stays with me. And I think that was probably one of the other parts to my equation of the reason, with what my dad said, stuck with me all these years.
Well, what I always loved about Let's Make a Deal, and I'm watching it now because a lot of them are on YouTube, when they gave away the big deal of the day, that's what it was called, they had Cadillacs, the big old, 50-foot long caddies that they had back in the 70s, just beautiful cars. And when they gave away trips, it was always first class. And I've noticed that now when they give away trips, they're not first class anymore.
Well, I think that's true. It's funny, the things that you catch over the years. You're like, oh, but you get this, and then years later, like, but you get this, but then you don't hear the other part to it. So you sound like you catch a lot of the verbiage that's probably not included anymore.
The reason I think that stuck with me is because when I was a little kid, my father did a lot of traveling for his work. And in the summertime when I was off school, he would take me. And we would always fly Pan Am, but we never flew first class. We were always in economy. So when they gave away trips, and back then, it was a different environment when you flew. Like, I had to wear a suit. My father would dress me in a suit to get on the airplane. And I remember we would sit there, and I would look at the people going into first class going, ooh, and be really, really impressed by that. So when I watched Let's Make a Deal, and they would say, okay, first class on Pan Am, and they're going to London. And it really was something special then.
Oh, yeah.
Now flying at least in the United States, is nothing really more than like the Greyhound bus in the sky. It's not fun. It's not exciting. If I have to fly somewhere, I'm like, oh.
Right.
And it's just, so it's so different. It was so romantic back then. And now it's just, I'd rather go to the doctors for a booster shot than getting on an airplane.
I hear what you're saying. Absolutely.
So anyways, well, listen, we got to kind of wind this down. Thanks so much for coming on. This was a fun chat. So the book is called The Next Contestant Is, and my guest is Pamela Hill. Do you have a website you want to give out?
Yeah, that would be great. My website is www.pamelahill.net. And my book, Douglas, is on Amazon. Like you said, and I so appreciate that. The Next Contestant is ... ellipses. And I have it in paperback and Kindle, and just recorded the audio, which should be out within a couple months. And William Joseph Hill, that hubby, did the foreword of my book. Didn't ask him, but he was nice enough to do that. So, yes, it's on Amazon, and they can find it there. And, I so appreciate your time, and I hope the people who are interested will have a fun journey with the stories in the book. It really means a lot to me.
How is the book doing?
It's doing well. It was so exciting. January came out, Douglas, and when you put it out, you're like, bated breath. And then I did not do all the pre-things or the extra beta people readers. I just put it out there, and then people started to respond. I was getting Pamela, we got it. And then as of today, which is so lovely, and just I'm so humbled by it, I have about 30 reviews, which again, it just means so much. I told the hubby and family that, it's one thing to be vulnerable and put your art out there, but I'm very touched by people enjoying it and having, whatever they got from it. So it's doing well. And like with your show, it's just getting it out there more, because I think, Douglas, it's a unique thing. Like you said, I've been on probably more than most people, but again, everybody has their own story. And, I was just ready to tell mine and took my time step by step, like the Capricorn I am. And hubby helped me with some of the legs of this. And so anyways, that's what happened. It came out in January of this year. So. Okay.
Well, it's a fun topic, and I think it's something that people would like to read, light reading, which I think we need more of, because there's just way too many, angry political rant books out there. And it's something like this I would pick up if I was browsing a bookstore. I'd skip past all the political stuff and say, oh, game shows. Yeah, let me get that one. Because that's just something you want to read. It's like escapism. I mean, that's what a game show is all about anyways.
Absolutely. And I have to give a shout out to the hubby again. He did a really, really cool, kitschy, fun, makes you feel good cover on the front that kind of lends to a feeling of just present day, but like the 70s. And it's really fun, the cover of The Next Contestant is. So he was my editor and forward person and my proofreader. So, which is basically the editor. But yeah, I definitely wanted something fun. You pretty much, just what you said is pretty much how I am. Just try to put that out there more. That's how I kind of run my life. So that's really important to me, just to kind of enjoy things and be grateful.
Well, we do have to wind this down. Thanks so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun talking to you, and best of luck with the book.
Oh, thank you so much, Douglas, and I really appreciate all your support.